I think a lot of the frustration lies, honestly, John, I think a lot of it lies with this email we got from Bill. Gentlemen, I used to enjoy listening to Matt Rhule speak, but have learned that he is nothing more than a used car salesman.
Ooh,
thank you.
The used car salesman line.
I think a lot of people are frustrated because the progress isn't being shown, because the team looks discombobulated, and because the thing that you like about him is grading when you're not winning football games.
Oh, of course.
So, like, Cignetti's success is definitely, like, annoying for people because they're like, they didn't want to be told it was going to be a slow build, and then it is, but it's even slower than you thought. And then you beat a team, and now they're the favorite to win their conference and go to the college football playoff, the Colorado Buffaloes. They are the favorite in the Big 12 now. So, yeah, all that stuff's annoying. But I really do think the majority of the frustration, though, is internal. It's about what Nebraska is, not what other people are.
Well, yeah, there's definitely an element of the Cignetti success, and certainly it does get thrown about when people vent their frustration saying, well, look at what that guy did at Indiana. Look at what Deion's doing at Colorado. So I think it's like it's adding a little, Tony Chechery's, a little Cajun seasoning to the dish. It's just adding a little more spice. But I think the general frustration is that it feels the same.
Yes.
It feels the same. Last year, after losing to Minnesota, one of the biggest things that people were like, man, this is just like last year.
Yep.
This is just like last year.
Not
and
that they lost, it's how they lost.
We had to talk a lot of people off the ledge, especially after the Colorado game.
Yeah.
And say, this is ridiculous. Why are we talking about the F word after game 2?
Yep.
The building frustration is that over the course of this skid, it's feeling very similar. And maybe part of that's a little unfair because losing never feels good. Losing never feels good. But it is in how the way they have done it. They at times don't look well coached.
No.
At times they look disorganized. I'm getting a lot of body language experts in my timeline.
Yeah.
Talking about, how SC was all motivated and pumped up and our sideline looked dead and flat. And again, a lot of these things, it's confirmation bias.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
By what you're already feeling, and then you're looking for those things. And so I can't put 100% weight behind that. But it does feel the same. A lot of the same issues. Game management. That's a Riley thing. Turnovers. I mean, that's common to everyone.
I was going to say that's an everyone thing.
Bad quarterback play.
That's an everyone thing almost, right?
The defense not coming up with enough stops. And just the weird things that happen.
The deflections, the pinball deflections.
The pinball deflections, all of these things. It all feels very similarly. And then we eventually go down the same paths of, well, who's to blame? What's to blame? How do we cast blame to this? And I've heard it from all directions. It's the media's fault. You guys pumped this guy up. You predicted an 8-win season. It's your fault. I even heard a call, and it was getting some run over the weekend on the message boards. There was a call to our postgame show, Big Red Overreaction, from a booster, I'm using air quotes, who once claimed that they were a Texas booster, but got disenfranchised with Texas 20 years ago and became a Nebraska booster.
Well, that sounds stupid.
And this person was actually trying to blame you.
Who?
The people.
Nick?
The most important voice of all?
The main thrust of this was it was some 3-minute long call, and it was about, man, you guys, you need to donate more to NIL. That's the reason why you're losing. This program's got 13 million, and this program's got, and Nebraska's only got 7. First of all, nobody knows any of these figures. These figures are kept under wraps. No, the only people that know them ain't sharing them because it's like the mafia. Nobody talks about what goes on behind the scenes. but they're actually trying to say, well, this is your fault. You guys need to donate more. You're not getting enough players. Nebraska's got players. They do have players. They should be better than 5-5. They should be better than 5-5. Yeah. I will not allow people to blame the fans for all of this.
Yeah, I'm so tired sometimes of the, like, there's becomes this discussion that it's like two different discussions. One, are they recruiting well enough to beat Ohio State? No. Two, are they recruiting, well enough to beat other teams? Yes. Like,
yes.
Who cares that they can't beat Ohio State? Like, that's so far from my mind now at this point. Like,
no, yeah.
Oh, that they're not competing in the upper crust? Like, no, that doesn't matter at this point in time.
No.
That doesn't matter at this point in time. Adam texts into the show. Fans are frustrated with what NU is and not what others are. People only bring up Indiana and Colorado because of Nebraska's struggles. If Nebraska was 7-3 with 2 wins over a combination of UCLA, USC, and or Illinois, we wouldn't be having this conversation of looking at Indiana and Colorado. Where the fans' frustration is that we're 5-5 and don't look any different than it looked under Frost or Riley. Nope. Despite being told by Rhule and Alberts, we were headed in the right direction. That's why people are frustrated. Nothing looks different or improved over the last 6 to 8 years. Again, it does. It looks the same as it has for a while. That's the issue, is that it looks the same. And so, like, the fact that we have gotten so far into the show today, and like we barely mentioned, except in passing, the clock management stuff. But like, I feel like that, and we got a weird tweet from Dan who says there are two sides to the clock management scenario. Will you guys vow to never complain if or when Nebraska scores, but leaves a minute or two on the clock, allowing the opponent to get into scoring position? Man, like, I don't know how you watch what happened on that final drive and not think, because of all the other history that we have with him so far, that he struggles at it. I mean, the whole fake punt,
the fake punt scenario was just, that was someone that was caught up in their own thoughts and just completely lost in the sauce.
I think Happer said it today on his show, where Rhule is, Schaefer said this to him. He compared it to blackjack, where he goes so off of feel that he never sticks to his own principles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't play blackjack, but the scenario he laid out was like, you have a 16 and you have to decide always, are you hitting or are you staying on 16? Because that is how you operate. Either you're aggressive and you're hitting, or you're conservative and you're hoping that the dealer screws up. I think that's how I understand this.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an apt comparison, because you either go for it or you don't in that scenario. But to do what they did and to waste a timeout and to then still end up punting, it just, even if the reasoning was sound, we didn't have the look for the fake punt, so we decided let's bring the offense out there. Then they don't get the look that they want, so let's take the penalty and then punt it. Even if the reasoning is sound of like, yeah, hey, you don't want to give them the ball at the 40-yard line. I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
It just looks discombobulated. It doesn't look like you know what you're doing. And that's not to mention the 16 yards that they went in a minute and a half on the last drive. They had 2 timeouts as that drive is unfolding, and they get down to the 20-yard line, and they still have 2 timeouts, but there's like 17 seconds. You can't do anything with 2 timeouts and 17 seconds. But you know what you could have done with? You could have done something with 1 timeout and 45 seconds, because they wasted so much of it at the midfield area.
If the emailer or the tweeter, wherever it came from, if they're trying to imply that Nebraska, hey, they're trying to take as much time off the clock so the other team doesn't have a chance to score. Nebraska's not in any position right now to dictate when it scores. They're having a problem scoring, period.
That's an excellent point.
They are not of that level. They are not playing at that level of football where they can say, okay, now we're going to dial it back because we don't want to leave any time for Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
They are not in that position.
You got to
score
first.
They need to score when they can score.
Yeah.
If it's 1 play or 10 plays, if it's with 1 minute left or 1 second left, they are not in a position. They are not that advanced as a program, as an offense, to be able to do that.
Excellent point.
So anyone who it was bad. But here's the other thing, going back to the clock management and being aggressive or not aggressive. So I was listening on the way in. If I get a chance, I like to listen to the other radio broadcast. No offense to Greg and Damon, who do an excellent job, but I just like to get
want to get the vibe.
I like to get a different perspective. Pete Arbogast, who is a friend of the Grum, we've had him on before. I was listening to him.
Mm-hmm.
There was the sequence that happened when Dylan slid early.
Too early, yeah.
And they had a 4th and 1. And if my memory serves, wasn't that around the 40-yard line?
Yeah.
They were stunned that Nebraska did not go for it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking in the moment going, that's kind of interesting. You got this new offensive coordinator. He is aggressive, but Rhule decided.
I think it's because there was too many yards that they had. I think he was like 2 yards, a yard and a half, 2 yards short.
I think it was
It was like a really long yard.
It was a long yard.
It was a really long yard.
But then you transpose that against the scenario with the whole punt and taking the timeout and thinking about a fake. So you go from, hey, I am standing on 16. In the first half, I am standing on 16. But in the second half, it's now I'm hitting on 16.
Exactly.
But then right before you say hit, you say pull back, and then it costs you a timeout, and it costs you precious time, and it makes you look silly.
It's why
there wasn't even an attempt to draw the other team offside.
Yeah, it's why.
Instead, it's Dylan standing behind.
See, you know what that is?
Center in shotgun, just holding his hand.
You know what? You know why? You know why? Because I think he thought that they were going to get the penalty, which is funny because in the end you took the 5 yards, so it's like might as well try to get him to jump offside. Is he worried that they're going to snap it? Is he worried that there's so much confusion that Ben Scott is just going to snap it to him and they're going to be screwed? But you know what? It's why, and I know we're just kind of jumping all over the place right now, but it's why like what Dan Campbell does in Detroit. You love because he
sticks to his guns.
He's consistent.
He did it in the NFC Championship game. It bit him, but that's Dan Campbell.
Look at Dan Lanning. They do a fake field goal at the end of the game. Now, I think if you're going to go for it on 4th down, just have your offense out there. But that is their ethos. That is how they operate. That's how Dan Lanning has gotten this team to 11-0. That's how Dan Campbell has gotten his team to 9-1. The best start that the Lions have had since the 50s.
And they're crushing people.
Because that's how he operates all the time. Nebraska, I don't know what their ethos are because they don't have a similar one across a game, let alone across an entire season.
Well, we thought they did. And then last week, Matt Rhule decided he's going to blow up his ethos and hire a guy he's never worked with before. And just bring him in and say, well, we're going to try this because I'm out of ideas.